Many people in the Las Vegas concert crowd thought the first shots were the sound of fireworks.
We got shots fired at 4:15 at Route 291. Sounded like an automatic firearm.
But within seconds, people were running for their lives.
And it became really real that we could die. We could really die.
After roughly 10 minutes of gunfire from a 32nd floor Mandalay Bay hotel suite, 58 people were dead, more than 500 injured. Police say the shooter, Stephen Paddock, ultimately took his own life. On motive, detectives say they have nothing.
This is an individual who was described as a lone wolf. I don't know how it could have been prevented.
Police have also made conflicting statements about a key witness, hotel security guard Jesus Campos.
The timeline associated with the original shot and Mr. Campos has changed.
When the sheriff said Campos had been shot inside Mandalay Bay 6 minutes before the attack on the music festival, it suggested the hotel never called police with the shooter's floor and room number.
We can't worry about victims. We need to stop the shooter before we have more victims. Anybody have eyes on this shooter?
It was a claim supported by confusion heard that night from first responders.
It sounds like it's either Medley or Lester. We cannot tell.
That's when MGM, which owns Mandalay Bay, said publicly it disagreed with the sheriff's timeline. MGM stated the shooting inside the hotel happened about 40 seconds before the start of the attack outside. The next morning, the sheriff reversed himself, changing the timeline again and agreeing with MGM.
There is no conspiracy between the FBI, between LVMPD, and the MGM. Nobody is attempting to hide anything.
Regardless what the investigation uncovers, it's a night that has changed many survivors forever.
I don't think I could ever go to a large gathering like that ever again.
And for countless visitors and locals, the famed welcome sign has become a place to reflect and mourn. Craig Figner, News 3.
Now the timeline.
Sheriff Joe Lombardo changed the timeline of events in the Mandalay Bay shooting without changing the 9:59 start time.
9:59 is important. It wasn't inaccurate when I provided it to you.
He now says 9:59 isn't when security guard Jesus Campos was shot. Instead, he says it's when Campos arrived to the 32nd floor hallway to check a door alarm. Lombardo says there's evidence placing the hallway shooting closer to 10:05, within seconds of the start of the mass shooting on the concert crowd.
He attempted to relay that information via his radio, and it was confirmed because he also relayed that information via his cell phone.
And Lombardo was emphatic, declaring this is Metro's investigation, with the FBI focusing in on the terrorism question.
To date, we have found no signs of ideology or affiliation to any groups.
The briefing was at times contentious.
It's important that you continue to listen to me.
And Sheriff Lombardo was at times tearful.
Excuse me for my emotion.
And Lombardo took issue personally with how he believes he's been described during the past 12 days.
The word incompetence has been brought forward, and I am absolutely offended with that characterization.
Upstairs, Mandalay Bay, halfway up. I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay.
It's still unknown if Mandalay Bay ever called Metro with the shooter's floor and room number.
It sounds like it's either Medley or Lester. We cannot tell.
On police radio, officers struggle for 13 minutes to find the shooter's room. At the end of today's briefing, no questions.
Thank you.
Sheriff, there's a matter of public
No questions.
What time did MGM call police? You guys still haven't laid that out.
Shooter was, what room the shooter was in. Police still say that they did not know that until 10:18. That is still their timeline. Tonight, there is no future press briefing scheduled as of right now. This is the lawsuit right here, and yes, News 3, the only local newsroom partnering with other news organizations across the country, pushing for answers from Metro. Metro has for weeks now refused to release public records. It's a lawsuit like this that could bring them to the surface. In the aftermath of the Las Vegas shooting, police filed 14 search warrants. They entered Stephen Paddock's Mesquite home, the 32nd floor hotel suite at Mandalay Bay, and attempted to obtain information about Paddock from Verizon and Google. But what did police learn? The warrants have remained sealed despite repeated claims from Sheriff Lombardo that Paddock acted alone, that he was a lone wolf.
This is an individual who was described as a lone wolf.
In the lawsuit filed by News 3 and 6 national news organizations, media attorneys are arguing that without an ongoing effort to apprehend, charge, and prosecute criminals in this case, the public has a right to evaluate its government's response to the Las Vegas shooting. Early in the investigation, Metro kept changing the timeline of events. It caused people to question the investigation itself. Then police went silent, ending all press briefings on October 13th. Attorneys argue that the public deserves to know as much as possible about the government's response to the deadliest mass shooting in the nation's history. The lawsuit says it's the only way the public can know if the response was, quote, appropriate, lawful, and effective. This legal matter is on a fast track for a court hearing, but the holidays are coming up. We would hope for a court hearing by the end of the year. It has been 20 days now since Metro's last briefing. We had been keeping our eye on the crime scenes because, of course, there is the concert venue, there's the Mandalay Bay 32nd floor hotel suite. There are also the fuel tanks that are just east of the concert venue. We had known that they were targets, but now we know they were also hit by bullets. For the first time, we can see the bullet hole into an aviation fuel tank at McCarran, a bullet that police say was fired from the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay. Early in the investigation, Sheriff Joe Lombardo suggested that the shooter had taken aim at both tanks here, but we weren't able to see this until now, when a small section of the crime scene became public again. As for the concert venue, it's preserved just as it was the night of October the 1st, when gunfire rained down on concert goers. Memories of that night are still frozen in time for Sherry Loudenslager.
Yeah, Mandalay 34th floor was our floor for our little staycation that we were having.
Sherry was at Route 91, enjoying the weekend with friends. Her room just 2 floors up from Stephen Paddock.
We were in the same elevator bank, up and down. Whenever we went up and down, you know, he could have been with us.
She returned here near the fuel tanks because she remembered seeing them as she and hundreds of concert goers broke down this fence and ran toward the airport.
I've been here several times, just trying to figure out exactly where I ran, what I did, and then seeing knowing about him shooting there, knowing we were, whatever. I mean, we're lucky. We're just lucky.
There has been just one notable change to this area during the previous 24 days. There's new glass on the windows looking out from the 32nd floor, room 135. It happened sometime between late Sunday and early Tuesday. A source tells News 3 that falling glass from the original windows became a safety hazard, forcing the hotel to install new windows. We are getting a deeper understanding of just how quickly things unfolded the night of October the 1st. We're getting that understanding by decoding the police radio traffic and then seeing how it lines up with what we know to be some of the first 911 calls. We may never know the exact time it happened. The moment the Route 91 concert festival turned chaotic and deadly.
16910 means we got shots fired, 4:15 ASF. Route 91 sounded like an automatic firearm.
But a preliminary report of 911 calls compared with police radio traffic suggests 10:06 and 35 seconds Sunday, October 1st is very close to the start of the rampage.
17910 means it's coming from upstairs in the Mandalay Bay. Upstairs in Mandalay Bay, halfway.
That is the earliest and first official help call made by a Sam Easy cop. Radio code meaning he was on overtime, assigned exclusively to patrol Route 91. 38 seconds after his first call, he's also the first to realize the shots are coming from a sniper.
I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay.
Anybody with any kind of firearms training is going to know that's automatic weapons fire right away. There's no mistaking that and fireworks.
We listened with retired Metro Detective Phil Ramos.
Shots fired from Mandalay Bay.
There's many people down.
The first phone call came in 31 seconds after the initial urgent radio report. It was made from this intersection at Giles and Mandalay Bay Road, but the call disconnected. But 12 seconds after that, 10:07, 42 seconds, a woman near Gate 1 gets through.
There's an open line with a female saying there's a shooting.
It's still not clear how police know, but 2 minutes before the shooting ends, cops are closing in on the 32nd floor.
I'm inside the Mandalay Bay on the 31st floor. I can hear the automatic fire coming from one floor ahead.
What that tells you is that these guys went right to the Mandalay Bay.
It's the story of police searching for a killer while also being targets.
Las Vegas Boulevard because he's shooting this way.
The other story that's emerging is of event security officers guarding a final day of weekend music and becoming first responders. Back here live, our analysis of these two reports, both public records and documents, does put the timeline, at least as these reports have it, in very close alignment with the timeline that police are currently supporting. I'm Craig Figner, reporting live, News 3.